Now, this is take number 3 because I've done my best to try and format everything out and whatnot, but we're just going to go at it as though this is a live stream, and I'm just going to kind of ramble and be me, talk about what I think is going on. So Overwatch is having a bunch of issues recently. If you are not in the community, then you don't generally see them. You just see that Overwatch isn't really moving as a game. Now, let's preface, whatever. Set this up with the fact that I am a bit of an old gamer. I do not believe in any way that games need to be supported by their companies. For example, Mario 64, once it was released to the world. A lot of people say, especially a lot of younger people than me, say things like, well, the world has changed. We now have updates. We now have all sorts of stuff like that. But I'm a big believer in the idea that chess 2 never came out. There's always been chess. There's been organizations that build themselves around chess. And there's been people that have run their own systems and even got full-time jobs working with the game chess itself. Personally, I believe that Overwatch is no longer Blizzard's. I believe Overwatch is now the community's game. But Overwatch itself is Blizzard's service. And this is where Blizzard is failing on multiple tiers. Because, well, number one, obviously the internals within the company are absolutely screwed. Nobody seems to have any control. Nobody seems to have any creative control. And nobody seems to have any sense of what the game is at its fundamental. All the decisions seem to be the top down going, this must be X, Y, and Z. And then the wonderful little developers down below being able to just kind of do what they can within that small bubble that Blizzard has created. And this is where, if you take a look, and I'm going to contrast this with Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike has gone out of their way, or the Valve community has gone out of their way to allow people to build other platforms and services on top of their game. So initially, let's look at the history of Counter-Strike. Initially, Counter-Strike was just a game people liked, and a bunch of nerds got together in their basements and said, hey, this guy's the best player because he beat us the most. And then all those little nerds in all their little basements came together and said, hey, these are the nerds that are the best at playing Counter-Strike in all of our basements. And then eventually you get enough people together, they can rent a building, and they've grown first from the game, taking it from Valve, creating their own services and their own systems. And then, of course, we have stuff like Faceit and a few other. Of course, if you go into like the community browser, which Valve have done a really, they've been pushing it off to the side in recent years and stuff like that. If you take a look at who made Counter-Strike, it was the community. Most balance changes, most systems and setups were from the community looking at. I keep saying Blizzard, looking at Valve's patches and looking at the way Valve was doing things and actually creating their own parallel systems in competition to Valve. Because Valve knew very clearly that their game was separate than that of their service. This is very specifically the reason why Valve added in things like gun skins, because they knew that their service, their competitive ladder, their professional system was in competition with other players. And so they continuously had to upgrade. They continuously had to move through phases of the game where they were not better than the alternatives of the exact same game. This is where Blizzard has failed on multiple fronts, because they have locked down absolutely everything. And you can actually see there's an attempt from the developers within the game to take control from Blizzard and give us things like the workshop, where they went, you know what, we're going to give you the workshop, but we're going to control everything. Because if you look at Counter-Strike, if I wanted to start up my own Counter-Strike server, or I wanted to start up my own Counter-Strike ladder, I have a computer behind me, bam, bing, bang, boom, and we have a server running, and we have a system running, and now I'm in competition with them. Whereas when we have a Blizzard system, for example, I now have to load up their game, I have to go into their servers, I have to ask their servers, hey, can you create a server for me? And it's not even permanent. I have to sit there as a community manager or member in the server itself for that server to exist. And it's not even existing in parallel to the game, it's existing within their game boundaries. The failure, the reason why this has happened, and the reason why they've treated us so poorly, and I believe this from somebody who has worked in digital media, I work in construction media, and I know how corporate structures allow people to do certain things. right? You're always working with loopholes in corporate structures. Some will say, for example, we need a video to do X, Y, and Z. And as an artist or as a developer of some sort, they're going to look through all of the specs of what the original higher up said that they need, and they're going to develop them one at a time with a little bit of variety in between here and there. Well, we know this, and actually I'm going to use an excellent YouTuber as an example, 3 Clicks Philip. Okay, now there's been a lot of other communities, of course, within the Counter-Strike world that have created their own little thing, but 3 Clicks Philip, I can't even talk. 3 Clicks Philip has blown it out of the water with all of his little silly nitpicky videos while still maintaining and running a community beside everything else. He runs his own servers, he runs his own maps, he runs his own rules. There's another one, of course, Banana Gaming is another one of those guys. We have, the War Owl. I know recently they haven't been doing too much, and we've seen a little bit of them up and down, but if you look at what has built Counter-Strike as a game, the Counter-Strike guys went, screw you, Valve. We are going to go build our own game, and we're going to build our own systems and services. And Valve came along and said, we're going to do it better. This is how Blizzard has completely failed at everything. Because everything that they do has to happen, and everything that we do, every game that we play, every time we jump into their services, we have to deal with their terrible social corporate structure. And this has become very clear over the past year with all of the allegations against Blizzard staff, with all of the allegations against the way that they do things inside their company, with the toxic work environment that's very clearly happened within the World of Warcraft community. This is actually mostly within the World of Warcraft community, but it shows you that if this can happen within the World of Warcraft community, then it is the higher ups that are making decisions for everybody that are enabling that type of abuse, and also restricting those people from being able to build the things that they want to build. Now, what that means too is that they also hire yes men. They hire people slowly throughout the years. These people are the people that just go, yes, I'm going to build the service based off of what you said. And corporate is going to hire based off of those specific specs or whatever for a person. It's like, it's really, really frustrating because it's clear at this point that you have some individuals inside Blizzard who do care about the game, who do care about the fundamentals, and who do understand that it is their job to make sure the chess that is Overwatch is the best service of chess that they can possibly provide. And the game itself is something that is disconnected. I'm going to keep reiterating on this. It is just so important. But Blizzard, the developers, they go, well, we want somebody who will release this much cosmetics per year, right? So they go out, they try and find somebody, they find someone, he goes yes, she goes yes, whatever. They go, okay, I'm going to do that. And then eventually you have certain people that are actually in power who understand the design of the system and who understand how to build stuff, but they're actually surrounded in a whole bunch of people that are following a corporate rule. They're actually bypassing their boss. I got a little fruit fly flying around here. They're bypassing their boss, and they're looking at, well, corporate said X, Y, and Z. Because I certainly, for sure, have sat in design meetings where as the lower guy, and as my boss too, I know that neither of us want what corporate is telling us to do. And even so, I may not even agree with my boss. My boss may want something that I believe will absolutely destroy the system and make it terrible. But they are so disconnected from these layers that the boss may be protecting something that worked 5 years ago, but is being told to break it by somebody higher up. And so you have somebody lower who knows that things need to progress, but can't progress things because you're rebuilding things that originally worked years ago, but no longer work now. And so you end up with this giant mess of information, just terrible mess of information. Now, if you look at, again, we're going to go back and talk about things like Counter-Strike. 3 Clicks Philip does an excellent job, too, at pointing out things like little pixel differences. And you guys will notice maybe it doesn't seem that important to most people, but Valve fixes them. Valve fixes something when they see that, oh, an item is a little bit too high. We actually had a recent video from 3 Clicks Philip saying, well, here's the changes that nobody would notice in the map. It updates within the game itself, because Valve knows that their service of creating all those things, people are going to copy them, people are going to make better versions of them, and if they do make better versions of them, then they're going to take all the competition. And even if Valve was to go, well, we're done with Counter-Strike, the community is still going to pick up the code. They're still going to pick the game up. They're still going to boot the game up. They're just going to connect to different servers. So even when the company that runs chess fails, right, then everything else runs perfectly. There's a reason why Overwatch 2 feels like DLC. It's because it is DLC. This is chess without the rooks. This is chess with one less row, right? That's all they're doing is they're simplifying it, and we're the players sitting here going, we like chess. We came to your service for chess, and nobody has made a parallel service that is any better to this because they've basically wiped out all competition. And you're going to update chess, and I can't go back to my old chess. I can't go back to my old game. It's a mindset. It's a mentality. I get very, very frustrated, guys, because as you can see up here, I have hundreds, thousands of hours in this game. I have thousands of hours talking to community members. I have thousands of hours playing with people, coaching people, walking them through specific ins and outs. And most of the time, whenever I'm trying to build my own community and build my own services around it, Blizzard's wonderful wall of software blocks basically all of that. If you take a look, for example, I run a Minecraft community. I can run my own bloody Minecraft server. I can be in competition with Mojang. If Mojang makes their own services and their own software, they very particularly know that, well, we are in competition with companies like Hypixel, right? That is what they are in competition with, as it is with Counter-Strike and Faceit, okay? There are a few other services and other games out there that do this. These are games that I'm familiar with more than anything else, but I know this is what's going on. If you take a look again, I mentioned the Mario, I believe in this take. I'm not sure if I did it in this take or a previous take, but I mentioned, my phone's falling, Mario 64. Well, what happened is the game was Mario 64, and then the community decided that they were going to make a parallel system to the game, and then the competition became speedrunning Mario 64. They created a separate game and a separate service and a separate ladder, and now they were in competition, and right now they're in competition with Nintendo, who are releasing things like timed runs in their Mario games. They see that this entire market has been created outside of their service, and now they're enabling them. And I know this is probably an older game by now, but like the Super Mario Odyssey, there's little time trials and stuff like that. They jumped on that. And so what can happen is when you have people like us building services and systems, the companies that build their games now look and should be able to look at the way that we do things and be able to steal from us, which is fine, because if they steal from us, the game gets better. Now, it's not always the best, of course, if they're making millions of dollars and I'm making hundreds of dollars and Emong is making thousands of dollars. It's a bit of a difference going, okay, my stuff was stolen by a multi-million-dollar company, but at least there's some form of respect back and forth, especially again with the Counter-Strike community, where there's a bit of a nod to the people who go out of their way outside of the game to create and update and do things that the developers would never ever be able to do themselves. It's very, very weird, especially with games like StarCraft, where StarCraft had one of the largest modding communities out there, had one of the largest external ladder systems out there. Like, Blizzard didn't really create the competitive StarCraft ladder, right? Other people created the StarCraft ladder, and Blizzard adopted it and created something from it. So people went, well, you know what? The third-party ladder isn't the best. We're going to go with the main guys because we can make more money here while we still compete with those two systems and services. So I know this is a bit of a rant. I know this has been a bit of a I get very frustrating and intense about it. I know my laundry is right there, so it's probably not the best video out there to put, but at least it gives you kind of my mindset and mentality as somebody who has been running a community, an Overwatch focused community for years now. My frustrations and my even the criticisms that I get about the game from people in my community wouldn't matter at all if we had a secondary ladder system, if we had the ability to create our own systems outside of that. And the fact that we can't create permanent servers, the fact that we can't create our own ladders, the fact it's It is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And we're not even getting the small, easy things fixed. We're not getting the hitboxes in our maps fixed. We're not getting character abilities fixed. Because if we had our own ladders, we'd fix them ourselves. If we made our own maps, we'd fix them ourselves. If we were allowed to do anything outside of Blizzard's tiny little service environment, I think we would still have many of the large streamers like Seagull and XQC and Tim the Tatman around, because they would always have something new. They'd be competing in new ladders. They'd have new systems, maybe small hero updates and third-party ladders. Maybe a ladder that has 222, and maybe a ladder that doesn't have 222, alongside this very casual competitive ladder that Blizzard has created. So I know, again, I just said I was going to wrap the video up, but I'll wrap it up there, say that's basically it. And these are my thoughts. I don't think Overwatch 2 is a good thing at all. I think it will be a good thing overall, but I don't think it's a good thing. I know it's kind of a hard statement to say, but the game itself will be great. I think it'll be an excellent update. But in terms of what they're doing, in terms of how they're deciding to do things, unless they're going to make a big change and allow us to do our own stuff, it's very clear that as a professional service, as somebody who more of a hobby at the moment than anything else, and more just because I love the game and I love the community, has created my own thing, my own hopes and dreams, excuse me, my own hopes and dreams for what I am doing here to become something much bigger within the Blizzard environment are completely dashed. And I think it's the same way with all the other community content creators out there. The focus and the thought that somehow Blizzard is going to come down from the heavens and help us out and give us a shout out or stuff like that. They throw us on the launcher. They do all that kind of stuff. The hope that they're going to do that is never going to happen. We had to make our own, and they stopped every little attempt at it. So thank you guys for listening to my rant, and I'm out.